Hey, folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier. It's a Friday night. I just saw really an interesting movie experience. I went to see one movie, ended up seeing another movie. Basically, the projector broke on I think it's called The Shaolin and the Ten Rings. I'm really looking forward to seeing that movie. I saw about the first 20 minutes, and then the projector, the audio went. And the next thing you know, we're all being informed that we'll be getting refunds and free bonus ticket and so forth. So I used the opportunity. I was at the theater anyway, and I called an audible. I checked what other movies were playing today. It was today when I started this journey, and the movie that was playing that caught my interest was United 93. It's a film that I remember seeing back in 2006 when it came out. I believe the director's name is Paul Greengrass or Paul Greenberg. I think it's Paul Greengrass. So I had seen the movie, like I said, back when it came out when I was a pretty young guy. And now I said, you know what? Maybe I'll see this movie again. So I did. And this is United 93. It's about the fourth plane that was hijacked on September 11th, 2001, which is coming up on 20 years ago. And so I won't give you the whole long and short of it. I think you know what happened on that day. Most people do by now, except for a lady that was in the theater with me who was acting very visceral reactions. This lady was kind of yelling at the screen and cheering and booing. I assume she was a senior citizen too, so I would assume that she knew what was going to happen. But I guess the movie was effective because it put her right into the middle. I hate to say of the action, but that's what it was. So what is this type of movie? It's you've probably seen, if you've been around the block, you watched the History Channel or CNN or Fox or anything. You can't escape from so many 9/11 movies, documentaries usually, that tell the story of what happened on that day. And there's even a whole other world of, I guess you'd call it, conspiracy films. Movies that think it was an inside job. I remember going to an independent movie theater. I think it was as early as 2003 or 2004, and seeing some type of conspiracy theory movie about the whole September 11th, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And this was before I really got into YouTube, or before I got into the dark recesses of online stuff, and didn't know about conspiracy theories or Paul is dead theories. Or yeah, it was kind of a mind-blowing experience to actually go into a movie theater and see this contrarian film where people in New York City are yelling at Bill Clinton. 9/11 was a job from the inside. And just so many things have changed. I think that's one thing. This movie hits on so many levels. United 93, I'm talking about, because it kind of puts you right back into that spot, right back into that moment. For those of us that are old enough to remember the pre 9/11 and the post 9/11 world, you could write books, I'm sure people have, about how things have changed. Patriotism, there was this big kind of support. What else were we going to do? Even people that were Democrats or undecided, people were coming out of the woodwork to support George Bush, the second George Bush. Other people, of course, were not. But then you had things like Toby Keith had a big song, the Ugly American, which maybe it took a little while to come out, but actually I think it came out before the 9/11 thing. But the Ugly American song, the Dixie Chicks, a couple of years later, getting into it, Bush, getting into it with Toby Keith, pop culture stuff. But our society was just changing rapidly, and there was a big upsurge of patriotism, or what we thought was patriotism, and then there was a lot of disputes and a lot of unrest. And I think I don't know if we've gotten any better, to be honest with you. When I'm watching this movie, United 93, my mind is going to January 6, 2021. And who would have thought that when, say September 12th, 2001, if someone were to tell you, hey, less than 20 years later, you're going to have a riot at the Capitol building, and they may say, oh my God, the terrorists are going to attack our, what country are they from? Well, our country. Who would have thought that on September 12th, or, a month after 9/11, 2001, who would have imagined that we'd be attacking ourselves from the inside. Who would have thought that? I wouldn't, because I remember when people were, waving the flag and being very patriotic at that time. And that's not what we have now. We have a lot of divisiveness. We have a lot of disruption. And just things have changed. And like I said, I don't know if things have changed for the better or worse. Probably for the worse. But this movie, it does, and I started thinking before I did this Mike's Instant Movie Review, should I do a fact checker? Should I go on Snopes or whatever, or movieindustry.com or whatever the hell, and find out how much of this movie is true? How would they know it really happened? And, it's tempting to do that. It's kind of fascinating. I guess there's some audio phone calls that people made from the flight. This is the beginning of the cell phone age, but also the phones that were used were really airplane phones. People that were, destined to die, unfortunately, and they were calling their loved ones. And you see that the passengers on this flight, kind of forming a vigilante group to defend themselves. I did find it kind of interesting, spoiler, that the British guy is the one that's rats out the vigilantes to the terrorists. I'm just kind of laughing because it's like they threw the one, he seemed to be English or British, they threw him under the bus in this thing, which I found to be an interesting choice. But maybe that's what happened. But how would we know if everybody on the flight died, which they did? The question is, how much of this movie is true? How much is speculation? How much is, fiction, obviously based on fact? But we don't know. So I think the writer director has made a great story. For some reason, I thought this was an Oliver Stone film going in, but it's not. I'm thinking, because I saw a couple of things online, that the guy that did these movies did the Bourne Supremacy movies. I was never a really big fan of those movies. So if that's accurate, and I can't fact check right now because I'm using the phone to do this review. Interesting, interesting stuff. But as far as just a movie, let's say that this movie was not based on a horrible, horrific, real life experience. Let's say that this was a purely fictional movie, and it would be a great movie. It is a great movie. Bottom line, it's a great film. It's visceral. It tells it almost like an in the moment documentary. You feel like you're a passenger on this flight. You get your heart pumping. You get, the woman, the senior citizen lady in this movie theater who's yelling at the screen. I'm just a little more demure than that. I'm a little more composed. So I'm not going to be screaming at the movie theater screen, but I'm with her. I'm getting riled up. And it kind of, as an American, it makes you want to go out and take a Taekwondo class or some type of self-defense class or some type of anti-terrorist class. It makes you want to do something. So it brings out the hot dog and baseball game in you. Like I said, there's so much layers to this movie. You're talking about religious themes. Obviously, as portrayed in this film, the terrorists that are doing this in the name of Allah, from their point of view. Obviously, not all Muslims, and the great majority, are not going to do stuff like this or would even think to. But this movie portrays that's the story. That's the official story we've been told. They were doing it in the name of their Lord, their God, their Allah. So, it's just it does. There's so many questions. This movie doesn't look to solve all the questions, which is actually good in its favor, because you come out thinking, well, how do these guys get all these weapons onto the fucking airplane in the first place? Like, they go through security, but how do they get their knives and this makeshift fucking bomb contraption onto the plane? Well, I can tell you that in my experience as a youth, not that I did anything like this, obviously, but you can tell that security has stepped up quite a bit since 9/11. One thing that came out of this thing, folks, is I feel that with our country, and maybe other countries too, countries that are, you'd say, first world countries, sometimes as individuals, we get a little lazy. We get a little lax in everything, our health, our weight, our way of taking care of ourselves. I know people that pride themselves that they can grow a garden full of food, or they can grow a garden full of beans, or they can, shoot and kill their own cattle. Now, I'm not like that. I'm not some lumberjack who fucking goes around with an axe and a, but it, you know, those life skills you kind of wish you did have when you see something like this, or you wish that you could do a Brazilian jiu-jitsu or do some type of Bruce Lee kick, like God forbid if I'm over an airplane, oh, you know, because it's so easy to watch this movie and get riled up and think, man, I gotta go out and defend myself, you know, and I gotta be ready for anything. I mean, this the type of movie that it's a great film. It makes you think, you know, it makes you think a lot about stuff, and you know, just your own chippiness. Like it gets you a little chippy. It got me a little chippy. You know what I mean? You start looking around like, hey, why is that senior citizen lady yelling at the movie? Maybe I should, you know. No, I'm just kidding. But the point of the matter is this: you know, we can live in fear, we can live in paranoia. I mean, I've taken air flights since 9/11. Obviously, I've taken air flights since seeing this movie. And the first time I saw it in 2006. Seeing this movie right now in our ever-changing world, uh, you know, I haven't flown in 2 years, and I understand you have to wear masks during your whole flight. I don't know if I particularly want to do that. In fact, I know I don't want to do that. So, seeing this type of movie, although they say you have a greater chance of, you know, being struck by lightning than being killed by a terrorist, or you have a better chance of dying in a car accident than dying in a plane accident. Yeah, okay, I get it. But at least with like a car, I know that I'm driving and I'm a safe driver. You know what I mean? So I see something like this, it makes you not particularly want to jump on an airplane, especially with our ever-changing world. It makes you think about this whole thing now. You know, I'm not going to get political, but with President Biden and Afghanistan and all this craziness going on in the world, it makes me or makes one try to put these elements together. You know, like what happened back then. Almost, we're pulling up on 20 years, folks. I believe today is September 3rd, so that'll be next Saturday. Will be the 20th anniversary, if I've got my math straight, of September 1st, 2001. That's right. It was a new millennial. It was a new millennial at the time. You know, we were just getting going with our millennial, and that's what happened. And like I said, I don't know if we've gotten better or worse. You know what I mean? And I don't know. Do people put January 6th, 2021 in the same category as September 11th? Well, with the death toll, it wasn't anywhere close. But with the threat to our freedoms and the threat to our country, I think it might have been worse, to be honest with you. But many people, for whatever reason, just want to brush it off and move on. I don't particularly want to brush that off and move on. I want to get to the bottom of that. But I'm not in a position of power to get to the bottom of that. You don't see me with a gavel in my fucking hand. I'm just doing a YouTube channel. So, hey, if I was, you know, God, jury, executioner of things, you know, things might be a lot different in the world, right? But unfortunately or fortunately, you know, I'm not in charge. So this movie, as a film, great film. I don't think you can take it away from this film. You can't hold a filmmaker, no matter what the budget of the film, no matter what the distribution, you can't hold a filmmaker accountable or responsible for telling the whole story of a situation in 2 hours or less. It's just not doable. So, you know, I can point out things like how they get past security, you know, and stuff like that. But um, it's not up to the guy to make. You can't tie up all those loose ends in 2 hours, you know. And so for the 2 hours they had, sorry, I get his names confused. Paul Greengrass, I think, might have been Paul Greenberg. Paul Greengrass, I think it's his name. I think he did a great job. You know, not that he needs my applause, but I mean, because the movie's, you know, 15 years old at this point. But I think he did a great job, and he's won awards for this film and done other films. And for whatever reason, I was thinking it was an Oliver Stone film, but I was wrong. That must be a different movie. I think, you know, we still haven't wrapped our head around 9/11. You know, I mean, you look at that famous View thing. If you ever watch The View, old school View, Rosie O'Donnell and Elizabeth Hasselbeck, you know, going toe to toe with conspiracy stuff. And who's to say? I mean, I wasn't there, you know, in any of these situations, so I don't know the answer. I mean, we're still trying to figure out who killed John F. Kennedy. I think that's one thing that we feed ourselves upon, myself included. All these conspiracies, all these things that drive us nuts and give us water cooler talk and cause for exploration. Yet we have plenty of problems to deal with. There's a black cat out there, by the way. We have plenty of problems to deal with. You know, if we got concerned about the water supply. You know, Mark Ruffalo had that movie last year, I think, that I did an instant review on. If we concern ourselves with the water supply, the food supply, the pesticides, all the things that cause, you know, we say, well, oh my God, this person got cancer. Why do you think they got cancer? It's because of the fucking food and the water that we're eating and drinking. There's your solution. Now the problem is, how do you escape? Do you just stay home and eat organic tomatoes all day? You just stay home and eat your own bale of hay all day and just grow your own food like you're in California and some thing. I mean, I can't live like that. I need to go out and be me and do the things that I like to do. So it's upsetting. It's confusing because you see all these people dying young. There's been articles written that more people are, especially men, are dying younger now. Just a guy a couple of weeks ago, 42 years old, died. You know what I mean? So it's upsetting because we all want to, we think if we go to the gym 3 times a week and we drink 8 glasses of 8 ounces of water, we'll be fine. But, you know, we find out that all these things on our supermarket shelves, all the boxed and bagged foods that we eat are full of crap. You know what I mean? And they seem to get approved before they get disproved. And the water, God, you can go on and on about the fucking water supply in the world. So when people, I hate to be shrill about it, or I'm not being dismissive, but when people say, oh my God, this person got cancer, how'd they get it? It's not their fault. It's not their fault they got fucking cancer because the water and the fucking food is poisonous. So how can people not get cancer? That's the goddamn question. So there you go, folks. There's so many things in the world. And, you know, people have a tendency, oh, Mike, you're being negative. No, I'm being fucking realistic. You know, that's the difference. If things were positive, oh, this little black cat's coming near me. I wish I had a can of tuna for him. But if things were positive, I'd be the first one to tell you things are positive. But if things are negative, I'm going to call it like I fucking see it. And you know, oh, you're being negative. No, I'm being fucking realistic. So anyway, you try to fucking, you know, that's why people go to amusement parks. You know, people go to amusement parks and people go to movies in order to get away from situations like this, to escape from the reality of life that is difficult and life is hard and life has risks. Every day I drive in this town, I'm hoping I'm not getting hit by a fucking idiot driver. You know what I mean? The only thing I don't like about this town is that the fucking drivers are horrible. So it's like you're just minding your own business and you get hit by a fucking car. So luckily that hasn't happened to me yet, but I mean, I keep my fucking eyes open. So the point is, folks, if you're going to take air flights, if you're going to live in this goddamn world, maybe it is time to take a jiu-jitsu class. Maybe it is time to take like an anti-terrorist education class. I don't fucking know, because you want to be prepared. And to the movie's credit, these characters, whether they're made up or half made up or whatever the fuck, you know, seeing that these people on this flight defended themselves and knew they were going down, but refused to surrender, that flag must still rise. Seeing that they were trying to do something to defend themselves and pull off a miracle in the face of terrorism and doom, that gives you some inspiration, you know. Once again, though, my point earlier is that sometimes you feel like that bravery or that ingenuity should come 5 minutes earlier, if that makes any sense. Like, the people on the flight figured out eventually that the bomb was bullshit. But if they had figured that out 10 or 20 minutes earlier, maybe things would have gone different. But honestly, they were in a tough spot. They were in a real tough spot. My friend Carla's chiming in, socially CC. I'm so glad I'm getting your lives all of a sudden. Or maybe you just started living or posting frequently. Miss you, bro. I feel your energy. Thanks, socially CC. CC's up in Rhode Island, and I appreciate her checking in. Haven't seen her in quite some time, but we had a nice phone call a few weeks ago. while I was perusing Epcot. And so, yeah, the live feeds, I just passed the 1,000 subscriber mark socially, and that's a big deal. That just happened last night. There was once again, everything's a yin and a yang, right? I mean, I can't believe this happened, but this poor lady, professional wrestler, 46 years old, Daphne Unger, literally was on Instagram threatening to kill herself 2 nights ago. Unfortunately, she had this really screwed up video. People downloaded it. It was trending on Twitter, hashtag Daphne, and people were very concerned. I went on here and did a live stream, and about 36 people chimed in or watched at one time. And now that live stream has over 2,000 views as of right now, because it was of the moment, and we were trying to do some group therapy type of thing and pulling for this woman, Daphne. Unfortunately, found out later, did not have a good result. Daphne Unger committed suicide, and unfortunately, some of her last moments on the earth were in a state of distress, captured on Instagram. So, I mean, that's a whole story. Where does this social media? It's a tool, but I think once again with humanity, the tools are invented before we know how to use them. Yeah, it was a no. It was a crazy situation. You can look that up. You can watch my, live stream about it. But at the time, we didn't know what happened to her. But it was very tragic and very anxiety inducing for myself. I made the mistake of watching the video, but I tried to put some positivity to it. And some folks commented that they really appreciated that because they felt like they were talking to someone who knows about wrestling and knows this situation and was just trying to make sense of it. So I did a follow-up last night. I was on the Monty and the Pharaoh show. We discussed the World Class Championship Wrestling days, where many of the top wrestlers there committed suicide, unfortunately. And, 30 years later, this poor lady, 46 years old, kills herself. Unbelievable. So, like I said, the world is full of danger. It's full, but here I am in a fucking parking lot on a Friday night all by myself, and there's no danger to me. You know what I mean? So that's one thing that I have to admit to, that sometimes I get worked up, because of the movies I see or the TV I watch. A friend of mine the other night was saying, hey, you better, before you go to bed tonight, watch all the flooding in New York City. Well, I didn't, because I'm like, I won't go to sleep. Why are you telling me to do that? If I watch all this flooding in New York City on TV, I'm not going to sleep peacefully. So I waited. I put it on today. You know what I mean? Because I get it. The world is always going to have some disaster, some breakdown of society, some crime, some thing. But if people want to go out and they want to, have lives, and they want to have kids, or they want to get married, or they want to adopt kids, they want to have a family, or they want to have a career, or something in between, or both. If you watch every minute of the news, you will certainly drive yourself fucking nuts. You will certainly bury yourself in pop culture and world events, and you will never leave the house if you drown yourself in your YouTube feed, your Twitter feed, your Facebook feed, your breaking stories. I mean, you can find a fucking reason to stay home and do nothing for the rest of your life because, oh my God, I might stub my toe on the curb. A friend of mine there on Facebook just told me that, I could tell the guy was getting depressed, and I told him, you got to get outside. And the guy just, told me, he reported that he's been doing some good yard work. And that's the thing. I had a buddy about 4 years ago. I hate to bring it up, but my friend, died. And he would go weeks at a time without leaving the fucking house. And so when I hear people, I can just tell now when there's someone out there that hasn't left the home in a while, and this god-awful worldwide situation we've just experienced, that just fueled people to stay home. What's that word? Agoraphobic? That just put fucking bricks and logs on that fire for the agoraphobes, for the people who don't like to go out. They like to stay home. They live through the television. They live through the fucking TV. This goddamn worldwide situation just fucking fueled that. Because now celebrities are telling you, stay home, stay home. Well, I get it. I mean, I think what they should be saying is stay safe, because you can go out. If you're the only person on a basketball court, you're not going to give yourself a fucking disease, right? If you're the only person in a movie theater, you're not going to fucking contage yourself. If you're walking in a park and someone else is 20 feet the fuck away from you. Now, we should have this all under control because of our friends, the masks, and our friends, the vaccines, but apparently that's not the way. So anyway, folks, I'm going all over the place. I'm getting myself worked up. It's a Friday night. I'm getting frisky with myself. But I thank Socially CC for chiming in. You're all welcome to share these videos if you find value in them, if you find excitement. Tell your friends. You know, that's the best thing you can do for this channel, is to tell your friends, and hey, this fucking guy is saying stuff that's exciting. Once again, I plugged it earlier, The Impeccable, my short film. That's a nice 23-minute watch. If you're really hardcore, get the whole weekend, you get a 3-day weekend. Watch Blood Sugar Sid Ace, my 78-minute masterpiece. You can watch that and see what the fuck you think. So that's it, folks. I want to thank Socially CC for checking in. She's doing good things with her cause for the Stop Abusing Kids. Be good to kids. The abuse of children is horrible and has to be stopped. So that's a great cause. And to sum it up, United 93, great movie, great film. We have not figured this shit out yet. Hopefully we will. And stay safe, everybody. Have a great weekend. I'll be doing plenty of videos. And talk to you later. Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. Over 1,000 subscribers and counting. Thank you very much. Have a great Friday night.